So the prompt for September is dark, and I have chosen to read a book which honestly I never thought I would actually end up reading, but it is The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. I read this author's first novel last year. That book was The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and I didn't really enjoy it. It was a murder mystery with some sci-fi elements, and I read it because I wanted to read a murder mystery, but it ended up being that the science fiction elements kind of took precedence over the murder mystery element, and I didn't like that. That wasn't what I wanted to read, and I found the ending very disappointing, and it was just like a 2-star, yeah, very disappointing read. And so when his second novel was announced, I was kind of like, that's fine, but I'm not interested. I'm never actually going to pick it up. But then I've heard some very, very good things about The Devil in the Dark Water, and I find myself with no other books with the word dark in the title that I'm more interested in, like, at all. So this is what I am reading for the September prompt. The Devil in the Dark Water is another murder mystery, or so the synopsis says, but I've learned my lesson from its first book. I'm going to go in kind of expecting a murder mystery, but then kind of expecting it to be just a bit weird. But this is set in the 1600s on a ship traveling to Amsterdam, and like some weird stuff starts going down. There seems to be like a devil on board, and there's murders, and I think it's going to be very atmospheric and kind of claustrophobic. And one of the passengers on the ship is this famous detective who I imagine is going to be the one investigating and trying to solve the mystery. But basically I'm going to go in with little to no expectations and just see what happens. Because just like the Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, I think it's going to be like half actual proper classic murder mystery and then half weird genre bending shit, and I didn't like the genre bending shit that was in Evelyn Hardcastle. So I'm hoping if I go into this with a slightly more open mind and much lower expectations, I might end up hopefully mildly enjoying it. So I have an update, and trust me, no one is more surprised than me, but I'm actually really enjoying this. I love the atmosphere. It's so deliciously creepy and gloomy and gothic and oppressive, and I'm just really enjoying it. The characters are really great. Our two main characters, I guess I would call them main characters. There's so many characters and they're all well developed, but I think the two that are doing the sort of detecting, they're doing the investigating, are firstly Arendt, who is kind of the sidekick to the famous detective Sammy Pipps, and because Sammy is being transported on the ship as a prisoner, Arendt is trying to work out why he is a prisoner, you know, what he's been accused of, and who would lie about that, because he's pretty sure Sammy hasn't done anything wrong. And then we also have Sarah, who is married to the Governor General, who's just like a massive dick. Hate him as a character. I mean, he's a great character, terrible person, but she is married to him, and she is also investigating some of the weird things that have been happening on board the ship. And it's all unfolding so wonderfully. It's so intriguing, and I'm really liking how the mystery and the story is slowly being revealed to me, and I don't want to do anything except continue reading this book. So I finished it, and it was really good all the way until the end. I was right about some of my guesses, I was wrong about some of them. I was half right about some other ones. Like I guessed like character A is doing the thing because of X, Y, and Z, and it turns out character B was doing the thing, but it was because of X, Y, Z. So like I got some of the motives right, but the perpetrator's wrong. I think this book did a really good job of laying out like the investigation and the facts and the evidence and the clues in a way that I was able to work out the final reveal like just before it happened on the page. So it's just really satisfying to read. And now that I finished it completely, I can say this book was just expertly plotted and so well crafted as a mystery. Brief discussion of spoilers, because I want to shout out one specific moment that like really got me. The bit where Sam reveals that he lied about the diamond case and Aaron had got the right guy, and he lied about it, and he's made Aaron doubt himself for years because of this. Like that little character relationship dynamic moment was just gorgeous. I absolutely loved it. I felt personally betrayed by that reveal. It was done so well. The very ending, in like the last, I don't know, 10-15 pages, I think in mysteries, the very ending always feels a little anticlimactic. And I think I've worked out why. It's because at the end of a story, the mystery has to be wrapped up. usually. It has to be wrapped up nicely and properly so that you have closure on everything. And kind of by default, that last little tiny conclusion, that tiny wrapping up of the plot is never going to be as high octane and dynamic and thrilling as the investigation and the journey it took to get there. So it's always, yeah, going to feel a little bit anticlimactic. But having said that, the ending of this book in no way overshadowed the rest of it. Like, it just worked perfectly together, and I think that's a problem that I just have with mysteries in general. So I'm gonna not take it out on this book and say that even though the ending itself, like that very last specific ending, I would maybe give like 3 stars. The book itself, I am teetering between a very high 4 stars and 5 stars. I genuinely don't know what I'm gonna give it. So I think I'm gonna break my own rules and give it 4.5 stars. Like, I've never officially, I don't think, given a book a half-star rating before. And it was something I'm gonna start next year, like 2022. I was like, I'll start doing half stars because I wanted all my books of the year to be like consistently rated, you know? But this book, it's too good. We're breaking my own rules for it. It's getting a 4.5. And honestly, it managed to just stay so good and so interesting all the way to the end. Like, I liked the writing, I liked the characters, I liked the plot, I liked the mystery. Was there actually anything I did not like? I don't think so. And in an amazing turn of events, I was in Waterstones the other day, and look what I found on the buy one get one half price table, my own copy. So this is going on my shelves ASAP, pride of place. I really, really loved it. Stuart Turton has completely redeemed himself in my eyes. Don't read Evelyn Hardcastle. Come straight to The Devil in the Dark Water. You will not regret it. It's incredible. I'm deeply, deeply obsessed with this book, and I'm so glad I decided to read it. This genuinely is one of my favourite books I've read this year. It's amazing. It's brilliant, fantastic, incredible. We love it. We love it. And so now I'm going to move on to my October read. I have chosen Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bully. This is a YA murder mystery, I believe, I'm hoping, about a girl who witnesses a shocking murder and then I think is asked by the FBI to like maybe go undercover, but to help them investigate it and find out what happens. I asked for this book for my birthday. Reason 1, because the cover is absolutely stunning, and reason 2, pretty much everyone who I've heard talk about it has spoken about it very, very positively and said it was really, really good. So I'm very much looking forward to starting this. So I'm now like 70 pages in to Firekeeper's Daughter, and there has been no murder yet, and I'm starting to worry this is not the genre I thought it was. It is interesting to read about our protagonist. I'm going to pronounce her name Dornis. I don't know if that's right. Reading about Dornis and learning about her Ojibwe culture has been really interesting because I genuinely had zero knowledge on that before. But other than that element, this is reading a lot like just quite a bland YA contemporary, and that is just really not my genre. So I'm waiting for it to kick in. I'm waiting for something to happen. But it also doesn't really feel like it's building to something. There's not like this great sense of anticipation or rising tension throughout the beginning of the book. And I think honestly, if I hadn't been under the impression this was a murder mystery, and I picked this up in the shop and I started reading the first couple chapters, I probably wouldn't have bought it. Which is tragic because I have it and it's gorgeous and I'm hoping it turns out to be a murder mystery. It's just that it's really not fulfilling my expectations so far. Today's update is I have tragically decided to put aside Firekeeper's Daughter and not finish it this year because life is too short to read books you're not really enjoying, and I'm not really enjoying this. It is not my genre, and the characters and writing aren't doing anything to make up for the fact that I just really don't enjoy reading from this genre or with a lot of these like YA contemporary tropes. So instead of forcing myself to read another 350 pages of this, I have decided to put it to one side because it will allow me to move on to my next book. And honestly, in an ideal world, I would have this vlog up before the end of the year. So to help me do that, we're not gonna finish Firekeeper's Daughter. but I'm not gonna get rid of it because I think it could still surprise me. Probably won't, but it could. But I'm gonna put off finishing it for at least a while because I'm just not in the mood to read it anymore. So instead, I'm gonna go and try and work out what my next read for this vlog is going to be. So moving on to my next book, I have chosen to read for the November prompt, Lost for Words by Stephanie Butland. This was chosen through a process of elimination. Basically, on the library app I use, BorrowBox, I had a look at all the books with the word lost in the title that were immediately available, and there were two that didn't sound like I would immediately hate them. And of those two, this is the shorter book. So this is about a woman called Loveday, great name, and seems to be some kind of slightly generic, contemporary, I don't know, like women's fic? I hate that phrase. I'm hoping it's going to be quite inoffensive and I can get through it pretty quickly. I've already started, and unfortunately my first reaction was that Loveday is very not like other girls, and it's told in first person, which I'm not like a huge fan of, actually. I don't love first person narrative because I'm always thinking, oh, what's everyone else doing? I want to know, I want some omniscient third person, please. But Loveday, she keeps saying things like, yeah, I work in a bookshop and I've got tattoos, so what? And I'm like, that's not a personality trait. You're not special. Oh, you've got tattoos and you work in a bookshop. I doubt you're the only one in the world. So that's not great. But yeah, my intention with this book is just to read it as quickly as possible and move on. So I DNF'd Lost for Words. What a shambles this video is turning into. Basically, it was just not very good and I'm running out of time. It's late December. I want to finish this all by the end of the year and it wasn't good enough. I'm very much like, I'd rather finish the vlog and finish the book right now. If I'm not loving it, too bad, we're moving on. I've got a whole other book to read and hopefully finish. To be fair, I did get like 20% of the way into Lost for Words and nothing at all interesting happened. We got a few glimpses into Loveday's tragic backstory, and I think we met the like potential love interest who was almost as insufferable as Loveday herself. So yeah, not a good time. I don't know what's happening. So that's it. That's my attempt for the November prompt. See you in the next clip. Over the weekend, I started reading The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. It is a murder mystery featuring 4 friends who live in a retirement village in Kent, and they have this thing called the Thursday Murder Club where they'll get together and like try and solve cold cases until one day there is a murder right on their doorstep. Not literally, but you know, in their community, and they decide to try and solve it together. I'm about 70 pages in and I'm enjoying it. I quite like the writing style, which reminds me of like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or more like The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. I think it's written quite similarly to that. It's very slightly ridiculous, and it likes to point out how ridiculous some of the characters are and like some of the absurdities of everyday life and its contradictions. And it shows how all of the characters are slightly ridiculous in their own little ways, but in a very self-aware way, which I am enjoying. Although my sister told me that her friend read this and hated it, but then on the other hand, Meg with Books loved it, and I think it's one of her like favourite murder mystery books, if not favourite books of 2021. So I'm hoping I'll be somewhere in the middle there, hopefully more towards the end of really enjoying it. And I am at the moment really enjoying it. And I think I'm going to end up giving it like 4 stars. I don't know, it's too early to say, but I am really liking it and I think it's going to be really good. So I finished it. I was planning on having more clips in the middle of me starting and then eventually finishing it, but it's taken me a while to finish. I got really ill in the middle of reading it, which has delayed this ending. And unfortunately, it did not live up to how much I enjoyed the beginning. The writing style in the end actually just got like a bit annoying, and it meant that it didn't have the gravitas of a murder mystery. I felt like I could never really take it seriously, and I was never that invested in it because of the writing style that made everything seem a little bit lighter and more absurd than it would have been. The actual solution to the murder mystery was good in like a fine way. I didn't guess it, so that's good. It did manage to surprise me and I liked that. But again, it was never that impactful because I wasn't very invested in actually finding out the answer. I was kind of just like reading along like, oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, that's fine. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's a nice turn of phrase. Or never actually thinking about like, oh, when are we going to find out who done it? That was never a priority. Spoiler alert, I thought it was going to be Joyce, not in a way that they were setting up for that. Although I think right at the end they did put in a couple of little red herrings that made me go, oh my god, was I right? I kind of just wanted it to be her because I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was Joyce? And because she's writing like diary entries throughout the whole thing, I was like, oh my god, is it going to be like a 75-year-old Gone Girl situation? No, was the answer. And so in hindsight, Joyce and her diary entries were kind of pointless and irrelevant to the plot. I mean, really, the only people driving the plot were Elizabeth and sometimes Ibrahim. Like Ron, I really didn't care about Ron, like at all, as a character. I forgot he existed between appearances in this book. And I didn't love that Bogdan killed Tony, or whatever his name was. I read it and I was like, oh, okay. Moving on. So yeah, it was a little bit disappointing in the end, but I am going to give it 3 stars because I liked some of it. I would say overall it was a mildly positive experience. Like, it wasn't a waste of time, and I would recommend this to people who want a like classic, nice and easy murder mystery to read that's never like incredibly graphic or weird, but that also isn't particularly interesting and gripping either. So even though I'm going to give it 3 stars, I would say it was still technically a disappointment, and I no longer think that I'm going to pick up the sequel to this, which I think is called The Man Who Died Twice, simply because I can't really see it being anything too different to this, and I wouldn't want to reread this probably, so why would I want to read the sequel, which I think is going to be very, very similar. So I made it in the end, just a couple of days late, admittedly. So I thought I would do a little wrap up and overview of all of my BUZZWORDATHON 2021 reads, and then do like a final ranking of which ones were my favourite. To be honest, not much has changed since my last vlog. So the January prompt was Dream, and I read Number 9 Dream by David Mitchell. The February prompt was A Colour, so I read Red Thread by Charlotte Higgins. March's was Time, so I read This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal Al-Motar. April was Space Words, so I read The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, and May was House or Home, so I read Slade House by David Mitchell. June was A Name or Title, so I read The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Niveau. July was Last, so I read The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, and the August prompt was A Time of Day, so I read The Encyclopedia of Early Earth by Isabel Greenberg. September was Dark, so I read The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. October's prompt was An Element, so I read Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bully, and November's prompt was Lost, so I read Lost for Words by Stephanie Butland. And finally, December's prompt was A Day, Month or Season, so I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So those were the order in which I read them, but in order of favourite to least favourite, this is what that ranking would look like. My absolute favourite was the only 5-star read, which was The Encyclopedia of Early Earth by Isabel Greenberg, but it was a reread, so I don't know if you might think that detracts from it being a favourite, because I knew I was gonna love it, but I have to say it went up from being a 4-star to a 5-star with this reread. Other than that, the absolute surprise standout was The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. Literally never saw that coming, never ever imagined I would love it so much, and that it would end up being one of my favourite books of the year. And I could say the same for Slade House, because I mean, I kind of thought I would like it because I do generally like David Mitchell books, but if you look all the way at the bottom, we've got Number 9 Dream in last place. Well, I guess Lost for Words and Firekeeper's Daughter are kind of in last place because I didn't finish them, but in like objectively, the worst book I finished was Number 9 Dream. It was so weird and incredibly disappointing. So I didn't expect David Mitchell to come back near the top of the chart as well. And yeah, Slade House, it stuck with me a lot. And again, it is one of my favourite books I've read this year. I've done the maths and my average rating for these books, the ones I finished, was 3.6, which is very good actually, and is actually higher than my overall average rating for 2021. So overall, I have had a really good time reading these books and doing this readathon. I am going to be doing it again this year in 2022. But what I have learnt is that I need to be more organised, be more ahead of schedule than behind it, as I was for the vast majority of 2021. And I guess I've learned that authors I really like can disappoint me, like Number 9 Dream, but also authors I never saw myself reading from again because I didn't like them can provide some of the best books of the year. So thank you for sticking with this vlog series until the bitter end. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!